people have seen the sea, yes? We were up down by the sea last week, and so were you, weren't you? Yeah, down by the sea last week. And there were some days when we were there, and the sea was just like a sheet of glass, and it was sparkling, and it was not really moving very much, and we could get in it, and we weren't scared, and we paddled. Well, I suppose I paddled, because shamefully, I can't swim. However, everybody else around me could, so they were able to get in a bit deeper and swim. But it was beautiful. It was beautiful and calm. But one day, when we were there, the wind got up, didn't it? And it got quite choppy, and there were big waves coming in across it, and nobody was going into the sea to swim, and nobody was going in to paddle. I used to live by the sea for a little while, for a couple of years, and I loved going down in the winter time, because then the waves would crash against the side of the beach, and they would come right up over the top and make us really wet, and all we were doing was walking along the path. We thought that was exciting, but I think I would have been really scared if I'd had to go out in it. Jesus lived in a really beautiful part of the world, and he lived and worked right near a very large lake. It was so large that people called it a sea. They called it the Sea of Galilee. And the sea was full of fish and a great place for fishing. It was right over the centuries. For thousands of years, people have fished in the Sea of Galilee. And you will remember that some of Jesus' disciples were local men. They were fishermen who knew that sea, that lake very well. Now, the Sea of Galilee is like a squished circle, if you were to look at it. If you could look down on it from an aeroplane, you'd see this squished circle of sea. And it's about, if you want to walk right round it, it's about 13 miles. So it will probably take me most of the day to walk right round the Sea of Galilee, but it's walkable. And I am told by people who've been there that the shape of the Sea of Galilee makes it like a natural amphitheatre. Is there anybody here who's been there? I've seen the Sea of Galilee. No, not anybody here. You have? Yeah, and that's true, is it?
I just remember being up on the hills looking down on it, and there was like a very loud disco boat.
Oh, that's cheating, having a disco boat, isn't it? But it's like a natural amphitheatre, and it was quite normal if people wanted to talk to people, to climb into a boat, go out onto the lake, because their voice would be amplified, and people listening on the shore would be able to hear them. So it was a very good place for Jesus to go and preach. And he'd go out a little way in the boat, and people could hear the stories that he was telling. And on the particular day that we're thinking about today, Jesus had done a lot of preaching. He'd been really, really busy that day, telling people all he knew about God. He'd even managed to feed a crowd of, remember, how many from last time? 5,000, well done. 5,000 people. And do you remember, Peter, what he fed them with?
1 piece of bread and 2 fishes.
It was 2 fishes, wasn't it? And a bit more bread. He had about 5 loaves of bread. But 5,000 people? Well done, Peter. 5,000 people. And there were even leftovers. I wonder who can remember how many baskets of leftovers there were. Whoa, can you remember how many baskets of leftovers there were? 12. Excellent. Do you ever wonder what they did with those 12 baskets of leftovers? Because I do. Perhaps they fed them the next day. Perhaps they sent them all home with a goodie bag. I don't know. But those 12 baskets of leftovers that were assiduously picked up. So no wonder that Jesus and his followers, Jesus and his disciples, were all tired and needed a rest. They must have been exhausted. And besides, it was getting very late and it was getting dark. So Jesus thought, I need a bit of time. And he left his disciples and decided to go up a mountain to pray. While the disciples got into a boat, remember they're by the Sea of Galilee, to go over to the other side and wait for him there. But it was dark, and it was late, and the wind got up, and the waves were big, and they were rocking the boat. You're absolutely right, shaking the boat around like that. It wasn't the best of boat trips. This is one where I would have been not very well at all. And the night was dark, and they were tired. And then in the very early morning, when it was still dark, probably around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, the disciples looked out of the boat. And did you hear in the story that Laura read what they saw? Did you hear what they saw? When they looked out of the boat in the dark, dark night. Nearly. What they saw was somebody walking across the water, not walking in the water, not swimming, but walking over the water towards them in the boat. It must have looked very strange. Some of them thought maybe it was a ghost that was walking across the water to them. But then the disciples looked out, and guess who they thought it was? Who was walking across the water to them? Jesus, yes. It was Jesus walking across the water to them, over the water. But you know, every group that you belong to has its cocky ones, doesn't it? Has its ones who leap before they look, whose mouths run ahead of their thoughts, but who bring such energy and such enthusiasm to what they do. They're great people to have on your team because they're never afraid to say or do what they're thinking at that moment. Life is never dull with them. And life was never dull with Peter on Team Jesus. But why, oh why, did Peter jump out of a perfectly safe boat into a high, windy sea, into the dark waves in the middle of the night? Why? Dear, impetuous Peter, he leaps out of the boat and he starts walking over the water to Jesus. And then he has a bit of a wobble, doesn't he? And he loses his nerve. And he starts to think. He knows he's walking across the water to Jesus. He's recognised him. He says, "That's Jesus across the water. I'm going to walk. Call me, Jesus, and I will be able to walk to you." And he does. He starts off. He's walking across the water, like in the picture nearly there. Walking across the water. But he loses his nerve. He has a wobble and he starts to sink. Have you ever had a wobble? When you started something and then thought, "I don't think I can do this. Help! I've bitten off more than I can chew." As I know I have many, many times. There was a time when I had just started to learn playing the classical guitar. And I was asked to play in a backing group in a drama festival. You might recognise this, Teresa, because the person who rescued me was somebody you know very well. And it sounded fun. But when I saw what was needed, I wanted to run away and hide. I thought, I'm never going to do this. I've only just started lessons. I don't really know what they're doing. And they're expecting us to play in this festival where there's going to be an audience listening. And there's no way that my guitar playing's ready for that. I didn't want to let anybody down, though. Help! Or there were the times when God has called me to do things. And I thought, "Lord, is that really what you want from me? Do you really want me to study and become a priest? Is that really what you want from me? I don't know that I can do it. Do you really want me to go to Romania and work with some children over there? Oh, I'm not sure whether I can do it." I had some pretty challenging situations throughout my life. And most times I've had a bit of a wobble. Really, God? Is that what you want me to do? Are you sure? And I suspect that probably all of us, right from very little to those as old as I am, have had wobbly moments when we think, really, God, is that what you want from me? You know, even the most famous of God's followers have wobbles at times, don't they? Elijah, one of the most famous of God's prophets and one of God's really strong workers, had an almighty wobble that we heard about today. And not surprisingly, Queen Jezebel was after him and making plans to kill him. And this time, Elijah was really, really scared. And he ran away. And he hid himself in a cave so that Jezebel's soldiers wouldn't find him. And God knew he was scared. And he reached out to him and he sent him angels with hot cakes and water for him to eat. Did you hear that bit? Hot cakes and water while he was in the cave. And enough of them to last him for 40 days. Even so, when Elijah came out of the cave, his faith was still wobbling. He knew God was looking after him, but he was a bit scared. He didn't want to do any more work for God. Why do you want this from me? I've done all of this for you already, he's saying. His faith was wobbling a bit, and he was afraid. He'd even heard God. Not in the rain, not in the wind, not in the storms, but in that still small voice afterwards. He'd even heard the voice of God. And he'd recognised it because he talked back to God. He said, please don't send me. I don't think I can do it. I'm frightened. And tired, worn out, and unsure where his faith was leading to next, God reached out. He reached out to Elijah. You're not on your own, God told him. There are 7,000 people here who still believe and have faith in me. You're not alone. And also, I'm going to give you a deputy who will take over from you when you're too old to carry on. A man called Elisha. And he will carry on after you, and he will anoint the next king. So Elijah's faith was restored, and he was able to carry on and complete the work that God gave him to do. So what about Peter? Sinking in the sea. You're ahead of me, aren't you? The night is dark, and Peter sees Jesus coming to him across the sea, incredibly, walking on the water. And Peter has his wobble. If that is really you, Jesus, call me to come to you on the water. And Jesus says, come. So Peter gets out of his perfectly nice, safe boat and starts to walk to Jesus. Because he's questioning it, isn't he? He's wobbling. If you are really Jesus, call me. And yet he knew, because he'd looked out and he'd said, that's Jesus walking over the water. But at this point, he's lost that confidence. He's questioning it. And he gets out and he starts walking across the water, and then he starts to sink. And now he really is frightened. He's literally about to drown. But he didn't drown, because Jesus reached out his hand and saved him. Literally and physically, he's been saved by Jesus. And together they get into the boat. Jesus reached out his hand to him. Do you know, I'm always struck by the wonderful patience of God when he's working with us. He reached out his hand and caught Peter. Peter, whose faith just had to take in a bit of a wobble, wasn't it? And it wasn't for the first or the last time. Peter, who knew he was with God, but still couldn't quite believe it. Like Elijah before him, he had seen and heard the many miracles that God had performed, had heard the voice of God, but still he was wobbling. Do you know, there are times in our lives too when our faith wobbles, doesn't it? Is God really asking us to do that? There are others much better, more qualified than me, much more able, much stronger, we think. But God is saying, this is what I want from you. And moreover, I am there for you. I am there. I will reach out to you. I will always be with you. But life challenges us, doesn't it? And like Peter, we want that little bit of extra proof that God is real and really present. And my guess is that everyone here has had, or is maybe having, one of those wobbles. There are times in all our lives when everything we thought or believed is challenged. And we worry that our wobbles or our questions or our doubts mean that our faith is not strong enough. Perhaps it means that that's the opposite. Perhaps it means that these are the times when our faith can grow. That these are the times when we need to let go and let God. Let God show us that He believes in us. And notice the helping hands that extend to us. Elijah was having an almighty wobble. But God showed that He still believed in Elijah, even if Elijah was struggling with his faith. And God trusted him enough to give him another job and to give him a helping hand in the shape of Elisha. So why did Peter get out of that boat, that safe boat? Perhaps it was because he needed more faith to stay in the boat than he had at that moment. To let Jesus continue to come to him and to let Jesus reach out to him, than to jump out of the boat and test it that way. Perhaps faith is staying the course, not running away, not jumping out of the boat, but to continue showing up even when things are tough. What if faith is knowing that God is reaching out to us in that darkness, walking alongside us in those times of darkness? Because that requires a strength of faith that's really strong, doesn't it? To keep on going through those dark times. It's a reaching out kind of faith, allowing God to reach out to us, allowing God to be in the boat with us, accepting the hands that have reached out to us in the hard times, and the support from those who are ready to get in the boat with us. Psalm 23 has it, in which we sang just now, wasn't it? Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Maybe there is someone near you who needs a hand to reach out and catch them. Maybe it's you that is the helping hand. Maybe there is a situation that needs your helping hand as the hand of God. Or maybe it's you that needs a helping hand. And what if, instead of trying to cope and walk on water, you took the hand that's reaching out to you, that hand that God is providing? I wonder when you have felt God's hand reaching out to you. And when are you being asked to reach out and to be the hand of God to another? Now, you have, hopefully, a boat, either from the one here, if you went in time to make them yourself, or one that you've made. And congratulations, I've seen some really, really good ones. That last bit's a bit tricky, isn't it? When you've done it, it's really simple, but it's tricky, isn't it? Yeah. If you want your boat back to take with you, and it would be good for that, you might need to put your name or a mark on it or a colour on it so that you know which one is yours. Because what I'm going to do at the moment is we're going to have a little piece of paper each, and could you either draw or write something or somebody that might need a helping hand which is your prayer, and it could be yourself that you want a helping hand for, then you can put your prayer into your boat, and when you have done that, we'll give you 2 or 3 minutes, and maybe you can ask Phil if you just play something while we do that. So somebody or something, and it can be yourself or somebody else, who needs a helping hand, goes into the boat, and then bring the boat up here, and Nicola's got some sea for you to float the boat in. Later on, at the end of the service, if you can come back and collect your boat and take it with you. This is a prayer from you to God, for somebody else or for yourself. If you don't have a boat, come and collect one.